Welcome, everyone. This is Heather Toplitz with the National Apartment Association. I want to thank everyone for participating in this free webinar. NAA has partnered with Jefferson Davis with Competitive Edge for the past few years now to help educate our exhibitors for the upcoming conference. So we appreciate you guys participating in the webinar. I also encourage everyone to visit the Exhibitor Resource Center on our NAA website under the Partner tab. There's lots of great articles, past webinars, different tools and resources that you can utilize to help plan for your show. And you can also reach out to Jefferson if you ever have areas that you have concerns or questions. He's definitely the trade show expert, and he will also be on site at the conference in June. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Jefferson.
All right, thank you, Heather. And again, thanks to everybody who's logged in. I know your time is valuable, and we want to make sure that you get maximum value from this hour that we spend together. As Heather mentioned, NAA is absolutely committed to adding maximum value for you as an exhibitor and providing educational content that helps you get more from the time and the money you spend on shows. And you know, the crazy thing about trade shows, I was just at Exhibitor show, is they really don't teach this stuff in college. You know, I've been polling people with marketing degrees over the last 15 years and asking them, how many of you have a college degree in marketing? Typically about a third to a half of the hands go up. And I go, how many of you can recall getting much more than an hour of exhibiting in their entire curriculum? And the answer is usually an hour or less. So congratulations for paying attention. You know, trade shows, sometimes what appears to be working for companies, you know, we look over and we see a busy booth and we go, wow, you know, what are they doing? And we look in the booth and they've got like a popcorn machine, you know, and the next show there's like 50 popcorn machines. So sometimes we assume just because there's people around the booth that what they're doing is actually working. And so this session today is going to take a deeper dive on all that. Most of you, if you've been around NAA for a few years, have seen or heard me. I'm their go-to trade show source, honored to be that. For me, trade shows have never been a place to just show up and fly the company flag and hand out some tchotchkes and go home and pack my case and go on to the next show. It's always been a place where I've had to make every dollar, every hour we invest do the work at 10 to 20, and it's always been a place that I have high expectations in terms of the value and the results that me as an exhibitor and my exhibiting clients get. And to that end, we've been building over the last, hard to believe this year makes almost 30 years in shows, building these perspectives and these practices, how we see it and what we do to make sure we're getting maximum value. And so, as Heather said, we've been sharing these with you over this entire course of programs, and you've got a deep dive body of knowledge on that ESRC, so be sure to use that. So let's start off with a quick poll here. Oftentimes we find out that there are multiple people viewing from your location. So with my first poll here, I would like to just ask you, how many people are with you viewing this webinar? Are you viewing it solo, 2, 3, 4, or more than 4? Pick the radio dial button that applies and press the button, and I'll give you just a moment to do that. And I'll also share the results of the poll. So we're at 90%. Thank you. You guys are so fast. I appreciate that. 90% of votes are in. We've got about an 80-20 split. 80% are viewing solo. 20% of the audience logged on today has 2 people viewing. So thanks for bringing your team along. I think that's a big part of what we should be doing with all of this content, is making sure that we're sharing it with our entire team that's viewing. So let's start off here. Let's move into the subject matter. And by the way, on the workbook, again, we're going to move very rapidly, hear, see, write, do. But here's the big idea as we get into this topic of understanding and exceeding attendees' expectations, is they have overchoice. You know, when they go to a convention, a trade show, they could be here, they could be there, they could be in the exhibit hall, they could be in educational sessions, they could be in social events, they could be out, we're going to Las Vegas this year, so they could be out in Vegas, they could be anywhere out there. And they're very selective, about where they spend their time and specifically which exhibits they visit. And so the major question that I want you to think about and begin to answer is this question of a worthy destination. You may want to write that down. You see, because you don't only compete with your direct product or service category, you compete with all of these places where the attendee can put their time and attention. So a worthy destination, it's worthy of their time. That's what we're going for here. And that's really the key to making sure that you get enough of the right people to your booth, is to think in terms of a worthy destination. So as we start, let's take a quick kind of swing at why people go to shows. And as I go through these, I want you to think about how many of these reasons you are integrating into your exhibit experience. Well, the first reason they come is escape, right? They're doing their thing. They're out at their properties, managing their properties, and it's a chance to get out of their environment and come into yours. And as they come into this environment, they're looking for new, better, faster, cheaper, greener, safer, more efficient, more productive, more profitable ways of doing things. And they're looking to you as an exhibitor to bring this value to the show. They're looking for solutions. They've got problems, they've got bottlenecks, they've got frustrations back at the property, and they're coming to the show with those problems top of the mind, and they're looking for solutions. Not only to current problems that they know, but future problems that may be coming down the line here that they may not even be aware of. So they've got a solution mindset. They want to benchmark their current methodologies and practices. How are other multifamily housing units dealing with this or that, so we can benchmark? And there's a lot of peer-to-peer conversation and sharing going on. And they want to learn the best practices, right? They want to know what the top 10 or the top 20%, the most profitable, the most efficient properties are doing. So they want to know the best practices. And they also want to know the next practices. Where are things going? How are things changing? And so that next practice that's going to give them a competitive advantage. They want to physically interact with companies and people and your products and your services. And they want to see things, they want to hear, they want to touch and engage. They want to totally immerse in this environment. And in the bottom line is they want to do a whole lot more at the show and in your booth than what they could do on a website. Okay, so these are kind of just some high-level reasons as we get started here. So there was some research done recently by the Center for Exhibition Industry Research, and it kind of put their reasons into two big buckets. One of them being shopping and the other being learning needs. And as you can see from the research on the screen here, that the high-level finding is that they're coming with dual needs. So not only are they looking sourcing and learning needs and networking needs, a third, but they're also striving to meet organizational, their company's needs, and their own personal needs, their personal development needs, their networking needs, their learning needs. So they've got dual agendas when they come to the show. So let's take a deeper dive on these reasons why they attend, and let's kind of determine the hierarchy in terms of the audience, and then let's come up with some ways that we can better meet these needs. Okay? So if you look on the screen right now, the reasons are ranked in terms of importance to the attendee. Okay, and as you can see, right at the top of the list, NEW, see new technology, new ideas, new services, new solutions. And right there with it, number 2, is to talk and engage with your experts. Okay, so they want to see what's new and they want to engage. Now, those aren't the only reasons, as you can see, but they're up there. And then number 3 and 4, look at those. New product introduction and physically interact with new products. Then you move into number 5 to get their questions answered on the spot. Okay, so these are the top shopping reasons. Now, there are more as you look down the line here, but those are the top 5. So let's come up with some things, okay? So what can we do as exhibitors, knowing this? What can we do to better meet attendees' shopping needs? Let's hit some high points here. Number one, if you got something new, feature it. Do not hide new in your booth. We just got back from doing 5 E3 programs, Exhibiting Effectiveness Evaluations. In February alone, we did 1,085 exhibit evaluations, my team did. We physically stood in front of these booths and did a 21-point evaluation of the booth in action. And by the way, if you're interested in that program, you'll be getting information where you could have that done while we're at NAA, where we stand outside of your forest and look at your trees. But here's the big thing that we're seeing across the board in every show. Exhibitors are not doing a good job of emphasizing new. They've got new stuff in the booth. 6 or 7 out of 10 booths that we evaluate, we ask them, do you have anything new? And they go, yeah, I do. And I go, where is it? And they go, well, can't you see it? It's over there in the corner. And it's kind of got this little paper sign with like 12-point font on it that says new. That's called Mistake Colossal. NEW is your single biggest drawing card of the show. If you got something new, feature it, lead it. I don't care if you got to get a neon sign with 2 feet letter flashing that says NEW. I'm telling you, it will grab the attention of the attendees, and this one practice alone will get a lot more people to notice your booth, and it'll get a lot more people in your booth. Lead with new. It's the primary reason they hit the floor. Next, how do I say this one? You know, we all market products, and we all market services, and we're all too close to the product or service that we're selling, and sometimes we're too far from what they're really buying. Okay, so to meet shopping needs, don't talk products, don't talk services. Talk problems and solutions. Okay, one of the best questions that you could ever ask as a marketer and a seller is what situations might be happening in their business, their properties, their operation, what situations might be happening that would cause them to think about what you do. And then in your exhibit experience and in your pre-marketing, dangle problems, all right? And they'll come running to your booth to find what? Solutions. So let's focus on problems that we can solve, opportunities that we can create, not product services, okay? Remember, products are the means, but the end game is what they're really looking for. Number 3, make sure that you've got keywords here, enough knowledgeable staff in your booth, ready, willing, and able to answer questions on the spot, okay? So make sure you've got the staff. Number 4, which is we're going to take a deeper dive on, is interactive presentations, demonstrations, as much as humanly possible. They want to come and they want to immerse, and so we got to make sure that we don't have a static booth with some graphics and literature on the table and a person sitting down behind the table behind watching the moving parade of life go by in the aisles, okay? So interaction is the key word here. When it comes to purchasing shopping needs, ask the visitor when they enter the booth. Ask them, hey, when you evaluate this type of product or service, what are the 2 or 3 most important things that you want to know, and be able to deliver that information. Okay, so identify their purchase criteria first, and then be able to deliver that information when, where, and how they want it. Okay, number 6, train your booth staff to use a consultative sales approach in the booth. They should be asking situational and need-based questions first before they ever say a word about your product services. Hey, what's prompting your interest? And what are you doing in this area now? And what are some of the frustrations or challenges or concerns you have? And spend that first 2 or 3 minutes of the interaction gaining that clear understanding on what the need, what the situation is, what the need is, what the problem needs to be solved. Then, after you have that understanding, deliver the content they need to make an informed decision about learning more or wanting it. Okay, so a consultative sales approach. Number 7, making sure you have both staff and space in the booth, and for some of you around the show in terms of meeting space and hospitality areas to help visitors in the idea generation and the planning stages of things. Sometimes they have a pain point and they're not real crystal clear on what's behind it, what's really driving it, and they're often not real clear about how to solve it. And if you have that space in the booth where they feel safe to open up, relax, and interact and discuss and brainstorm, it can make a big difference. A big trend that I'm seeing on trade show floors right now that has really taken flight over the last 6 to 12 months is I'm seeing the more use of whiteboards in the booth, whether it be the standard type with colored markers, or whether it be electronic type, or whether it be touch type, where there's a lot more interaction and collaboration going on in the booth. And so this is something really cool to think about in helping, okay? So, and by the way, those are some of my ideas on to better meet shopping needs. Anybody listening here today, you guys have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, a lot of skill on this webinar. Any ideas that you have on how you or we as a group can better meet attendees' shopping needs, send those to me right now. Use your question queue and go, hey, what about this? What about this? I'd love to share those with everybody on the webinar. Well, they say everybody wins when somebody shares, right? So let's understand that these shopping needs are important, and let's do a better job of meeting the shopping needs, okay? Now, let's move to the next side of the fulcrum here, which is the learning needs. And they really came down to 5 major things. They're looking for industry trends and insights to learn about what's happening with the industry and what are the trends, and how does that affect me and my business, and how can I use this, and the networking and improving their job performance. A lot of you that market services, software solutions and different things, this stuff can have a radical impact on their job performance. So you can see how linking around learn how to do this or that better than learn 5 reasons why our software is the best in the business. How about learn how to do this or that better? Learn being the key word, something that ties into their job performance, personal development, and to attend the seminars. So what are some of the things that we can do to better meet their learning needs? You've got to promote your exhibit before the show. And in fact, we've got a state-of-the-art exhibit marketing webinar replay up on the Exhibitor Resource Center. We also have a driving qualified booth traffic up on the, if you haven't viewed those 2 webinars, I strongly suggest you view them. They're both online. But there's 4 key words that should be highly visible and should be dangling in any and all of your pre-show outreach. And there's space in the workbook to write them. What will they see? What will they do? What will they learn? And what will they get by visiting your booth? And by the way, that is a really great exercise to sit back and think about your current approach to your exhibit. See, do, learn, get. And answer those questions and put as much firepower in those answers as you can, and then promote around those 4 talking points, and you will literally drive interested, qualified visitors to your booth. So those 4 key words. They want takeaway information, industry intelligence reports, checklists, best practices, white papers, case studies. All of these things can radically help with the learning experience in and around your booth. Having space, dedicated space in your booth for peer-to-peer discussion. Maybe it's, for some of you, maybe it's just those toppers, those round tables where 2 or 3 people can circle around it and have that space where we can talk peer-to-peer and kind of get out of the hectic aisle. Learning needs, bring and demonstrate. Bring and demonstrate. People do not learn well just from reading, and we'll talk about getting multi-senses involved here in a moment. But immersion is the key word here. With technology today, the ability for you to make your knowledge and your educational content available in multiple formats, where it's a one-to-one, one of your booth staff is standing and the knowledge is being imparted in a one-to-one, or it's a one-to-many, whether you're using small groups or small theaters, Or maybe it's even a self-guided, where you've got the ability for them to interact with flat panels and touch screens and computers in the booth and self-guide themselves. And I'll show you examples of all of this as we go on, but better meeting their learning needs. Force your booth staff to continually be able to, when you talk about your products, when you talk about your services, speak to how it helps them perform their jobs more efficiently, more effectively, more proficiently. Make sure that becomes a key part of the conversation and how they talk. And the hands-on physical opportunities, provide hands-on. And then here's a final point that I think would benefit every exhibitor, myself included, when I go to shows, everybody. Before the show, get a hold of the roster of educational sessions. And number one, figure out which sessions speak to topics that you guys serve, and you really need to have somebody in and around those sessions. But second, promote educational sessions to the attendees. Why? When they go sit in an educational session and their mind gets all worked up and stimulated on a physical topic, they'll hit that exhibit floor primed with very specific questions, and they'll come right to your booth. So let's not only do a better job of meeting attendees' learning needs, but let's make sure our staff is growing from shows, and let's leverage the knowledge flow that's happening around the show. So with that, Heather, tell us a little bit about, last year you guys launched a new program focused on learning. Tell us a little bit about this Learning Zone program.
Yeah, so for the second year, NEA will be having the learning zones on the show floor. There's 3 zones mapped out on the live floor plan. The first zone is technology, the second one is mobile marketing, and the third is green and sustainability. So this is an area that that exhibitors would be able to have a 30-minute mini session on a stage for group. It's a seating between 20 to 25 people. NEA promotes it in pre-show, and then we also promote it on site. There are guidelines on how to submit a proposal. There's only about 20 or so slots, but it does take place during the conference when the hall is open. So that information is going to be available on March 24th, and I'll be sending that out to all exhibitor contacts. At that time, it will include all the guidelines for submitting a proposal, and then our education conference team will review all the submissions and make final decisions to announce in April.
Great, thank you, Heather. I think that's a really brilliant concept. It's smart. It's playing to this learning need. And exhibitors listening to this, I would suggest that you look into that and submit, because the fastest way to really effectively market and sell, as paradoxically as this might sound, is not to market and sell. Let's just provide knowledge, provide education that leads people on solve a problem, seize an opportunity. Learning is the key. So look into that program, and I'm looking forward, Heather, to being at the show and also watching these learning zones go down live. I'm excited to see those. So follow through on that, everybody. It's killer content. Okay. So let's move into one of the key in-booth media that we're going to use to meet both learning and shopping needs, and it's demonstrations and presentations. I'm not going to hit all these stats because you can see them on a screen, but I'm going to hit the first one. CEIR just did a major study last year to determine attendee preferences. The #1 way they want to engage with exhibits on the trade show floor is through demonstrations, presentations. And you can see how it impacts lead quality and awareness, and you can also see how thinking this through and doing this well impacts recall, memorability of your exhibit. Honestly, about 6 to 7 out of 10 exhibits, 3 to 4 steps down the aisle, they forget about them when they walk out because of the lack of a good interactive learning-based demonstration presentation. The phrase that we might want to use here, and this Jack Morton Worldwide is a big event agency, is experiential marketing. They're experiencing it. And the high points on that, I'm not going to hit all these, but I hit the big one. that it drives purchase consideration across age, gender, and ethnicity. And 57% say it results in a faster purchase. 80% who participate tell others. That's really what you want right there, right? So they come in your booth, they engage, they learn something useful. The first impact is that they get out around the show, and when they're with their colleagues and their friends, hey, have you been by this booth yet? Oh my goodness, you got to go see them. So that's kind of what you want to build. You want to build such a valuable destination, and the experience in that destination is delivering so much value that it creates that buzz. In social media language, it would be that viral, right? That viral spread, if you will. That's what we're looking for in the booth. Okay, so let's get into some steps and put some kind of meat on the bones here. How do we go about doing this? Well, number one, remember all those reasons that I showed you earlier why they attend? You know they have shopping, learning, and networking as their big three, but in that first slide, I drilled down into a lot of very specific reasons. Make sure that you're crystal clear on why, and make sure that you're committed to addressing the reasons why they attend, the attendees, okay? And then remember the competitive factor. The stakes are high. The competition's high. The battle for their attention and their mind share is intense, and you're competing with all of that, okay? Get crystal clear. Ask yourself, who do you define as your ideal visitor in terms of the type of company or operation, the job function and title, the number of properties or units, any of that. Get real clear about who you're defining as your ideal visitor, and then ask that major question I gave you a moment ago and go, hey, what's keeping them awake at night relative to what we do? What problems and pain points and frustrations are they having? And how can we help them solve those? Okay, and then look at the opportunity side, because it's not always about solving a problem. Sometimes it's about seizing an opportunity. You know, maybe they're using a certain software or some form of a service that has holes or gaps in it, and it doesn't interconnect very well to other platforms, and maybe it's more of an opportunity that they may or may not even be seeing. Okay, so opportunities. And then really focus on that experience. The key words: engaging, immersive, educational, and then promote, relentlessly promote this pre and at show. Okay, pre and at. Don't just wait till you show up and promote. Make sure you're doing your pre-marketing, and remember those key words: see, do, learn, get. And then integrating rewards, educational type rewards for participating. Takeaway stuff, content. You know, when I walked the show floor last year, I saw a lot of tchotchkes. I saw a lot of water bottles and pens and stress balls and stuff like that. And I don't know, you know, I mean, how many more cheap pens does an attendee need? And what is that really doing to add to their knowledge? And how is that really branding and putting you in front of them in a relevant manner? So let's think about the rewards, too. Remember, see, do, learn, get. What do you get by coming to the booth? Okay? All right. So this would be a good time for any questions that have kind of flashed into your mind so far. We just finished up page 5 in the workbook. So any questions that have flashed in, let me take a peek. We've got one in the queue here about how would you go about demonstrating a service versus a product. And I'm going to address that specifically with one of my slides here on the service. So again, any questions come up, type them in, send them. Remember, there's no such thing as a dumb question, except maybe the one that you want to ask and you need to ask, but you don't. Okay? Beyond that, fire away with the questions. Let me see. I've got a question here. How much does a demonstration increase brand awareness? And let me go back a slide and see if I can point to any research on that. Awareness, 70% increases consideration. 66% say it's very to extremely effective on influencing brand and product perceptions and opinions. 66% is the high-level number I would use on that. 66% bump in brand awareness by doing that well. It's a good question. Let me see if we have other ones. One more back. Hold on. Let me go back one slide. Five to 10 times increase on awareness. according to live marketing. And live marketing is, to me, they're the gold standard, by the way. If you use in-booth presentation demonstrations, this company is based in Chicago, and they are absolutely one of the rock stars in the business of being able to create and tell a product or company story and bring the whole program together. I've worked with them many, many times, and we've knocked some of these way out of the park. In fact, I'll show you one of the programs we did as I get into the actual how-tos here. See if there's any other questions before we go forward. All right, good. No more? Again, remember, type at any time. The moment a question flashes in your mind, type it. All right, so let's go. Let's get into now. Many of you listening today may have multiple products or multiple services, and there's always a battle that's raging internally about everybody wants equal space in the booth and we want to put all the stuff in the booth. I think it's a mistake for a million reasons. Number one is less is more at a show. Number one, write that down, less is more. Number two, every booth needs a hook or a focal point. If you put too much stuff in there and it's confusing, the mind rejects clutter, specifically at a trade show, when there's over choice on where to land my attention. So we've thought long and hard about this question. If we have multiple things, what do we bring and feature? Well, lead with new, right? Lead with new. Why? It's the number one reason they attend. Okay, follow it up with any product or service you have that speaks to, solves, or addresses a top-of-the-mind industry need or problem, something that's trending, something that's buzzing. Maybe there's been government regulations, safety regulations, OSHA regulations about this or that, and maybe you have a product or service. Maybe there's compliance things that they have to be aware of, and this is all hot topics for what to bring to the booth and what to lead or feature. So you start with new, then you go to something that's trending or top of the mind, and then finally your pillar or your core or your bread and butter product services, you know, the ones that are the basis of your business. You're trying to reinforce those. But I think that's the hierarchy at a show. Lead with new, follow up with trending, top of the mind, and fill it in with your core, your bread and butter. Anything that doesn't fit into those three categories, leave it home. You know, you can't do everything in the booth. You can't be everything to everyone. So lead with new, follow up with the top of the mind, fill it in with your core. Okay, so demonstration presentation strategies. We're on page 6 in your workbook. Now, these are just kind of the concepts behind. And so I'm going to throw these out, and then as we get into the actual presentations, I think you're going to see some of these. But let these kind of incubate or marinate, if you will. Prove your claim. That is, hands down, probably the single most powerful presentation strategy. If you're saying that you can process renter apps 40% faster, prove it, right? Don't just say it. If you're saying that it saves you this or that, how can you show, tell, prove it? Prove your claims, killer strategy. Now, many of you have a lot of competition in your space, and there's something about your product service that makes it different, unique. Demonstrate your key difference. Put all the attention on what makes us different, and build a demonstration about showing, telling, immersing, engaging around key differences. For some of you, recreating a scenario. Maybe it is like a role play vignette in the booth where there's a like a leasing manager and a potential renter comes in, and some of the stuff that happens in there that can cause that renter to walk out and not want to rent. So maybe it's something like that. So maybe it's an experience. Maybe it's a situation. So recreating something. Let them tinker. They want to put their hands on things. They want to touch things. They want to do things. Can you augment this, facilitate that, do it? Okay. This one is a killer strategy here, before and after. Before and after. One of the great booths that I saw recently at an E3 we were doing, a company does these baseboard heater covers, and it was a 10 by 10 booth, and the headline on the top said, "Got ugly baseboard heater covers." That was it. Then the picture was a half and half. Here's the your ugly one, right? And down the middle is a line, and here's what it looks like when it's covered, before and after. I was like, wow, you can't do it better than that. I mean, very few words, a strong visual image. Here's what it looked like before. Here's what it looks like after. Show me that stuff. I want to see it. Old way versus new way. Here's the old way. This is how, if you're still living in a cave, this is how you do it, right? But if you're into the 21st century here, this is how they're doing it. I'll give you a real-world example from that. I worked with a client in the food ingredients industry. They did liquid packaging solutions. Our target audience was companies that were using the 5-gallon plastic like buckets or pails, they call them. So we had in our booth, we had a vignette set up, and we had an old clunky-looking pallet with a bunch of these 5-gallon pails stacked up on it. It said Old Way. And right next to it, we had the same amount of food product in a liquid packaging bag, New Way. It was an absolute attention grabber. All our booth staff had to do was stand on the perimeter, watch people as they pass and go, hey, do you guys use these 5-gallon pails? They would go, yeah, we sure do. Go, look at this. They go, oh, my God, let's talk, right? Old way, new way, killer strategy. Sometimes you've got to build the exhibit experience that it speaks to the user, the influencer, the financial, the specifier, that it speaks to multiple buying influences. Okay, I saw Dyson Airblade, one of my favorites, when I see their exhibit. Their exhibit not only has the user experience because they've got the running sink bowl right on the perimeter with an Airblade right on the perimeter. Get your hand wet, zoom, done. But they also have a cutout of a garbage can filled with paper towels, and then they've got a visual showing how much it saves over using those noisy, clunky dryers and paper towels. And then finally, they've got the technical user, and they've got a cutout exploded view of the Airblade with a video talking about how it works and the ease of maintenance. And they literally speak to the user, the green, the financial, and the technical maintenance side, speak to all of them quickly, efficiently, effectively. Okay? Make them guess to learn something. People love to have their knowledge tested in a safe way. They don't want to be made to be a dummy, right? But they do love to interact with these quick. Guess how much or how long do you think? And years ago I worked with a company where we did a survey. Before the show we had surveyed, and this was in food ingredients. We did a survey. We said, we did a survey to determine is there a taste difference amongst gender, male versus female, in frozen yogurt, as weird as that might sound. And we said, hey, we surveyed 500 men and women to determine, here's the 5 questions we asked. Come by the booth. We'll have these questions posted on the wall and see how many you got right. We got a 40% response to that program as we pre-marketed that. When people came by the booth, they were so anxious. Did I get the answers right? Make them guess to learn. Next, challenging their knowledge and their skill in fun, fast, safe, and easy ways. Killer strategy. If you've got demonstration presentations that take a little more time than average, comfortable places for the demo, the more comfortable the seating, the longer they'll stay. Again, if you want them to stay long, right? Or unique places for the demo. I just saw on a show floor where a company was having a demo in what was the recreation of the yellow submarine, and yet it had like yellow, and it looked like a submarine, but inside of it were these meeting rooms, these presentation rooms, and people are lined up to get into the yellow submarine. So think about all this. And then technology. I'm going to give you a whirlwind on technology in a moment. But integrating this stuff into your presentation. Look at all this, what you can do with your presentation. I want you guys to get really, step out of your kind of forest, right? Get outside of your forest, look back at your trees and go, what are we doing, and which of these strategies are we or have we or could we apply, and then how do we use all this stuff to blow the attendees away, that not only they come in your booth and they engage and have an incredible experience where they learn, but they also get around the show and tell others, you got to go, oh my goodness, if you go to one booth on the show floor, you better go to that one. Okay, that's what we're talking about here. This is show business. Put on a show. Okay, so some of you providing services, okay? It's a little more challenging, no question, right? You don't have a physical product. So you've got to really think more about what problems you solve and how do you solve those and what impact does it have on their operations or businesses? Okay, so it comes down to that. Maybe it's something where you save them time, you save them money, you save them, avoiding costly mistakes. It makes the process more efficient. It improves something. Focus the presentation. I would say don't exclude methodology, but when you're a service business, make it all about the results, because that's your hook when you got a service. So maybe you're going to do a one-to-one, or maybe you're going to do a one-to-many presentation in the booth. And maybe you're going to identify the 3 biggest problems that multifamily housing is having with blank, and 3 practical ways to eliminate it. Learn how to do that in 7 minutes in the booth. I'm telling you, they'll come running. Gamification. Maybe you're going to bring a game into this and have them take the take the multifamily housing risk challenge. So maybe there's a game, or maybe there's a quick quiz. 5 things that you've got to know about renters today. Come see how many of the answers you get right, and build a game into it. There's deal, no deal, Jeopardy. Imagine what you could do if you built gamification that was intentional. Physical props for service businesses. For example, I market a service, and I use successes measured by the companies you keep. How do you measure up? And I use a tape measure with a calculator as a physical prop to hook people. I put it in their hands. I ask them 2 questions, ask them to run 2 numbers, and the conversation is on. So I've got a prop. Okay. These white papers or checklists or industry intelligence reports, another great tool for service providers. Also, case studies, the problem, what we call a PAR report, problem, approach, result report, extremely useful for service businesses. Building client testimonials, case studies into the exhibit and into your graphics, another key for service businesses. All right, so let's hit the 5 major types of presentations. Let me take you on a visual whirlwind through some of these in example. Then I'm going to give you 7 steps to build your presentation. Open us up for questions, and we'll be ready to go. Okay? Start off with the physical product or the service demonstration. You got a new product? No better way to do it. Want to showcase capabilities? No better way to do it. Want to differentiate from the competition? No better way than this strategy. Analytical audiences who don't want pitches want to go inside of how stuff works? You'll never go wrong with this strategy. So now look at the screen here. Now don't get caught up in what these people do. I want you to think about the strategy they're using. Look to the top left. Okay, so this glass tableware manufacturer, what's one of the biggest problems food service operators have with glass? Breakage, right? So what are they doing with this demo? Demonstrating what? Durability. So they had these glasses on, I don't know what they call those things. They have steel balls on wires, and you grab one, and then you drop it, and it goes ding, 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 ding. That's what they did. Any attendee who walked up and grabbed that glass on the end and lifted it up and dropped it, and you heard the cling or the clack or whatever you want to call it, immediately got the message of demonstration. Okay, look over on the top right here. This is an emergency medical service company that has this evacuation chair, and they've got a real, like a very quick, try this out. Here, you sit in here or I'll sit in here. Watch how easy it is to pull me up the steps. Takes what? 60 seconds. I got the message. Down on the right, look on the right, this company has a data collection pipe. One of the big problems in that market is these collection pipes get damaged because they hit things. So what they were doing in the booth to demonstrate the ruggedness and the durability, they had a cement block in there, and they had a hydraulic thing that was slamming the data pipe into that. Those are product demonstration examples. Okay, just examples. So think about the strategy behind those. A lot of what I showed you here is what? Prove your claim. A lot of what I showed you. Prove. You're saying it's durable. Show me. You're saying it's easy for me to get this EMS evacuation chair up and down steps. Show me. You're saying your data pipe is durable and won't crack under stress. Show me. That's exactly what they did. Theaters, whether you're a medium or large exhibitor and have a large theater, or you could be a small exhibitor in a 10 by 20 and have a flat panel and 6 to 9 little stools. And maybe on the top of the hour, you're running the top 5 things that property managers need to know about this or that, and that stuff works really well. You got to keep it short. You can't be too long. You're talking about 7 minutes is about the window. You've got your crowd gathering, then you've got your 7-minute presentation, then you've got your engaging with the attendees and directing afterwards. One-to-many guided presentations. Another example. I was involved in this one. We knocked this all the way out of the park. This company had 4 different solutions, and one of the things was to communicate, we're a lot more than what you think we are. So we had this Do More tour. We had a live presenter. We did crowd gathering. We quickly moved them to 4 different stations in the booth. We put a physical card in their hand where they had to interact with the content. And when they were done, if they handed in their the bottom part of their card, we let them, by the way, this show was in Vegas, where we're going to be, and we used a casino chip where we said, hey, take the Do More tour, fill out the card, drop it at the end, and you'll get to put your hand in a bag and draw a casino chip valued anywhere from $1 to $500. We got a 45% response on our campaign. We ran almost 800 people through the Do More tour. This is a one-to-many guided that works well when you've got multiple product services. Interactive information stations, whether it is on the lower right there where it's a little kiosk thing, or on the lower left where it's a flat table and the ability to use the cube to interact with data, or whether it's top left where it's got a, you can see there's a handheld like a wand and they physically interact with content on the screen, or on the top right where you've got many multiple solutions and you want them to be able to interact with your entire range of solutions to whatever they want to know. Powerful way to go. Let me show you a few examples that blew me away over the last year. Coca-Cola at the C-Store show. Now, Coke could just show up, fly the flags, and say, sell Coke, why everybody buys it. But Coke knew their audience. They're coming to shows to learn how to optimize their sales. They built the Customize Your Cold Vault experience. This was mind-blowing. Talk of the show. They had it positioned right on the perimeter of the booth on the main aisle. As they engaged attendees, they would ask questions about their demographic. They would have the attendee touch a couple push buttons on the flat panel you're seeing on the bottom, and the entire cold vault would shuffle, and it would show them how to optimize the cold vault. Every time that thing shuffled, almost everybody in the aisle stopped in their tracks and looked at it. They were learning something here, too. This wasn't just razzle-dazzle. In minutes, they could learn how to optimize their cold vault. Okay, now here's a self-guided example that also blew us away. Now, this company was really positioning that we're the innovation leader, and the theme was 30 years of MRI innovation. So not only did they reinforce that position by having the innovation of each year for the last 30 years, but they had it on flat panels with a motion sensor that as you got near the thing, the innovation of the year would come up. So you could walk to the right and see there's 94, 97, 86, whatever. Self-guided interactive multimedia, unbelievable, extremely effective. Gamification, number 3 strategy, okay? We talked about this. It builds buzz, it's fun, it's interaction. The audience gets energized, engaged, and they can learn something through. The example you're seeing on the screen here is the deal or no deal. So they built this little game show. Look, that's not a big booth. And they built that game show into there. And, you know, hey, at the end of the day, we're all kids, right? We want to have fun. So if you could teach me something in a game, wow, the stickiness of your message is going to go through the ceiling. So here was an example where they had the audience competing. And again, I'm showing you examples outside of your industry on purpose because I don't want you copying what others in your industry are doing. I want you bringing innovation to it, and I want you thinking more about the strategy behind it. So this company here had a key point of differentiation. The game was designed, you know, most of these material handling warehouse distribution centers buy these racks and they're welded. And so this company has a differentiated thing about molded. So how do we engage the audience? They built the challenge. It was called the Interlock Bolt Challenge. They had 4 attendees up there on the competing to see how fast they could build a mini rack. Fun, engaging, interactive, tells the story. I worked years ago with Mariel, a division of at that point, Merck, and they do Frontline and HeartGuard are 2 of their animal drugs. And if you have cats or dogs, you're probably using 1 or more of those. We had a game show in the booth called Jeopardy, a spin-off of Jeopardy. Extremely effective. Ran it twice an hour, had 8 seats on both sides. We had a game show. We were educating them all about the symptoms and the efficacy and what made ours different through the form of a game. Okay. Here's one I saw recently, blew me away too. Okay, now this is game-based guided. So General Mills at the NAC show was kind of doing a smaller version of what Coke was trying to do. The key strategy was here to get the visitor, can you increase the category sales, the snack swap challenge. So they had these six or nine products show up on the booth, on the flat plate. The attendee had to pick the 3 that they thought were the lowest sellers, touch, touch, touch. They disappeared. A list of new products came up to replace, pick 3, drop them in, and they had an algorithm built that showed them did they increase sales or not. Fun, engaging, interactive, learn something. Okay? Cool stuff. Some of you got big product services, maybe can't bring them. Some of you are going to go out and try to recreate the environment. So maybe scale models or maybe a physical recreation of the environment is going to come into play. On the left here, this is a clinic on how to do a scale model. Look at that GE. What? GE gas engine. Value proposition, turn your gas into blank. The 2 key bullets they want you to remember, a small video showing in work, and then the scale model. Nowadays, with 3D printing, the ability to create scale models, the price point's coming way, 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 way down. On the right-hand side here, this is a radiology lab, and they're recreating the environment by this radiology shield that he's wearing. He's tethered to the top. He's walking around in the booth, and they've kind of recreated the environment. Very powerful, appeals to the technical, detail-oriented people. Here's another example, killer example. Wake up your coffee sales, build a better coffee bar. Crystal clear value proposition. They recreated the environment. When you got into the environment, look on the right, make it fast, make it fresh, make it mine. They taught you exactly in just a few minutes on how to optimize your coffee bar. Okay? Again, think about the strategies they're doing and think about what you're doing. Number 5, the parody. Okay? This can be really fun because if you can kind of identify the demographics of your audience and you can find some element of pop culture or television or movies, or even books, and you can kind of bring this theme into your exhibit, you'll create immediate connection with the audience. The example you're seeing up here is the Myth Blasters, and boy, those guys look exactly alike. So they had this little parody going on. I've seen other ones. Mack Trucks, for example, had a problem with a truck they sent into the market that wasn't as tough as it needed to be. When they came back into the market, they rolled out big style. They had American Gladiators. They had a press conference. They had that announcer, the guy, let's get ready to, right? And they played that whole toughness theme parody throughout the exhibit. Here's a company also using the Mythbuster theme in the booth. They identified the top 5 myths or what's competition saying about their products, and they identified them as myths, and they put you on this myth hunt throughout the booth. They had 5 different product vignettes in the booth that had the myth and had an interactive product demo showing you that this was, in fact, a myth. Extremely powerful stuff, okay? Extremely powerful. So as you start off here, okay, so I gave you a lot of examples to prime your pump, and many of you are probably going, oh my God, I got to get off this webinar and get to work on this. You should, because this is priceless stuff we're talking about. Here's your big questions to start. Crystal clarity on your audience. Crystal clarity on how specifically your services or products address. The one big idea you want them to walk away with, and clarity on the actions that you want the viewers to take while they're with you in the booth and what they do when they leave. Those are your major questions. The 7-step process for thinking all this through is, number 1, outcomes. Okay, you got to get crystal clear. What exactly do we want to accomplish? What do we want them to think, feel, do during and after, and also remember as they walk away. Begin with the end in mind, know your outcome, reverse engineer it. Second, make it about your audience. They don't really care about your product services. I hate to say that. I'll tell you what they do care about. Their problems, their opportunities, their pain points. If you'll design your presentation to be audience-facing versus you-facing, there will be more engagement. You'll have less people doing like the guy on the right here, tuning out and checking out. Number 3, the story, okay? If you think about a story, is you build it where there's a villain, something's causing problems, the conflict is the problem, the hero is your customer, and the triumph is the end result. And so as you design this presentation, if you can weave the art of storytelling into it, knowing that the hero is not you and it's not your product, it's the customer, and design that, you'll be able to get emotional connection with your story. And stories somehow have the ability to bypass the subconscious mind. Number 4, Confucius said it best: I hear and I think, I see and I remember, I do and I know. To design as much physical and mental interaction into this as humanly possible in step 4. Step 5, okay, if you're going to do any form of a live presentation where you've got a presenter in the booth, you've got to make sure this person can do the job. Sometimes, you know, like the product manager or whoever, though they may be very knowledgeable, they might not have the skills to take a small audience and really engage them and communicate in a compelling, passionate, persuasive way. And they've also got to be able to keep their energy level up, especially if you're going to run multiple presentations. So don't overlook the importance of the person delivering the message. Sometimes you might need to go external. Not always, but sometimes. Number 6, please do not let them leave the exhibit without capturing everybody's information who participates in your demo. You'd be amazed at how many theaters we look at, 30, 40 people in the booth. It's the end of the presentation. They scatter like bugs. The booth staff is not even paying attention. There's no capture device in there. You may not get this chance again, so design that capture device. Number 7, as you wind this thing down, a crystal clear call to action. This is what we said in our McClanahan Do More tour. Hey, you've learned a lot of important things here today. I want you to make sure you've captured your 4 key messages about our 4 solutions. And oh, by the way, I want you to walk right over there. See Heather over there behind? She's going to take the top part of your card, drop it in there, and you're going to get to put your hands in a bag and pull out a casino chip that you get to keep. Can you imagine what our pull-through on that was in Vegas? Off the chain. Off the chain. So a crystal clear call to action and the pull-through to the booth. What do you want them to do next? We gave a high level when we wanted them to go on a deeper dive with a product or technical expert. That was our next step. What is yours? Okay, I'm about at the buzzer here, reinforcing. Make sure you've got clear, interactive, educational messaging, visually supporting it. Okay, your graphics need to inform. They need to educate. So we need some content in there that's supporting all this. And never forget the importance of the, here's what I'm telling you, here's what it means to you. Never assume they get that linkage. So having crystal clear type feature statements, advantage, benefit, payoff messaging to visually support what's going to happen in your presentation. Okay, and with that, final way, give them multiple ways to access information, one-to-one, one-to-many, electronically. There's so much you can do in this area. And in this hour, I feel like we've only just kind of skimmed the surface here. And yet I know that between these understanding why they attend, and I know now understanding these 5 presentation strategies, and having the questions, and having some visual examples, that every one of you can and should get off this webinar and reevaluate how you're showing, telling, presenting, emerging, engaging. Because not only do you win with better quality booth traffic and more content delivered and people that walk out of your booth going, wow, but everybody wins. Trade show works best when the show organizer, NAA, and the exhibitors, the supply side of the industry, work in a spirit of harmony, sense and serve the needs of the multifamily housing marketplace. The better we all do that, the more valuable the show becomes for all. The more time the attendees spend in the exhibit hall, the more value they get from the experience. And that's the challenge that I'm putting out to every exhibitor on this webinar and every exhibitor in the show. Okay, so I want to thank everybody for logging in with me. I'm going to open up the question queue and take a peek. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to send it back to Heather for a moment. But if you have to leave right now, and many of you may have to, please be sure to complete the quick survey. Please be sure on the last page in your workbook, page 10, that you capture 3 specific ideas that you're going to get off this webinar and you're going to put to work for the upcoming show. You're right in the sweet spot here. We're 4 months ahead of showtime. It's time to adapt and apply and act. I'm going to be there, and I cannot wait to see the experiences, the worthy destinations that all of you bring to the conference. So with that, I'll toss it back to Heather for closing comments while I look at the question.
Yeah, thank you, Jefferson. Hopefully you guys were able to have a handful of takeaways that you can implement for this year at our conference. The webinar is being recorded, so it will be posted on the Exhibitor Resource Center on our website under the Partner tab probably in the next few days, so you can share that with your colleagues for anyone that wasn't on the webinar. But again, the learning zones, I did want to mention, those are free to exhibitors. It is limited to 20 or so slots, so that information will be available on March 24th. If you've got any questions before that, feel free to reach out to me. But we appreciate everyone participating on this. Thank you.
All right, Heather, thank you. I am not seeing any questions. I am seeing several very positive comments, and thank you so much for those. You know, again, remember, it's not what you heard here. It's what you do. You're right in the sweet spot here. You've got a little over 4 months. Feel free to call anytime with questions, bounce ideas by us. Heather, myself, the entire team at NAA, we're all here for one reason. We want you guys to have a massively successful show. So use the content. View us as your partners. We're here to help in any way we can. And let's go make this year's conference, let's blow the mind of attendees. Everybody wins. So I want to thank everybody for logging in. With that, this concludes our webinar on understanding and exceeding attendees' needs through demonstrations and presentations. Thanks for logging in, everybody.